Welcome to It's a Long Road, the Rambo Series podcast. I'm very excited today because I have an incredible special guest host. This is, well, he goes by Arcade Adriano on all of his socials. Adrian, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Oh, thank you, Ryan. Yeah, my name's Adrian, and I've been on your show before. You very kindly asked me to be on Going the Distance podcast, the Rocky podcast. I've been a big supporter, actually, big fan for a few years now, actually, and I'm humbled and honoured to be on your show again. And I'm sure we'll talk about Rambo, what it means to me, but you know, I've got a lot of time for the Rambo films, and I've been really impressed so far. I have to say, your David Morrell interview was, and I don't want to give you a big head, but I thought it was absolutely stunning. I think it's one of the best interviews I've heard in a long time. Okay, across any media, forget gaming or whatever. I couldn't believe it. It was so entertaining. So fair play to you.
Oh, thank you very much, Adrian. That's very kind. I want to say it's weird having, how should I say this without sounding like a, because I know you were a listener of Going the Distance, and I think we started connecting just on that basis that you're like, hey, I listened to your podcast, I enjoyed it, and then I found out that you're a podcaster, and we'll talk about your show, of course. It's weird then co-hosting with a fellow podcaster, because you do a great job on your show. I had last episode on It's a Long Road, I had Jared Talkstein, who does his own podcast, the Hyperspace podcast. So it's kind of unsettling podcast with a fellow fan of the show / podcaster on their own, because you guys are doing the dirty work out there too of podcasting. So
yeah,
I appreciate your support and your kindness. So why don't you just quickly talk about what you do as a podcast?
We do a weekly retro gaming podcast. We cover individual games. We've actually covered some of the Stallone games in the past, actually. Ryan, about you're a bit of a fan as well of those classics. But we also cover little topics, and I've done interviews as well. I recently have interviewed some big names like Ken Levine, who made BioShock, which was quite unbelievable, really. We managed to get him on the show, truthfully. I don't know how we managed that, and some industry legends. And we have a laugh. We don't take it too seriously. People seem to like our style. We're four Croydon boys, Southeast London kind of thing. It's sort of connected with people, so we're quite proud how it's grown. I'm a massive gamer, but as you know, also one of my biggest things I talk about to my family and my friends is obviously the Stallone universe. So I sometimes try and crowbar him into my gaming chat where I can, but obviously that's why I found your podcast, if I'm being honest.
Well, yeah, no, that's awesome, and you do a great job, and you have some incredible interviews, great content. I've listened to all of your Stallone coverage. That's where the crossover is for me. I also like video games as well, but you guys do a great, incredible job. You have a great following, and you should be proud of yourself there, Adrian, for doing on the video game side of things. I'm glad I don't have to compete with you regarding Stallone, because you have a good grasp on the arcade market. So, okay, before we get into First Blood, what is your history with Rambo?
Watching it, far too young really to watch it, really. I shouldn't be watching Maybe I was about 10, 11, 12. I can't remember the exact time I watched the first few films.
You say that. Sorry. I mean, you say that.
Yeah.
I've got a 10-year-old son right now, and he hasn't seen it, but had he, if he goes to me, Dad, can I watch First Blood? I'd be like, sure. I think it's intense, but I don't think it's inappropriate.
Yeah. And even Rambo 2 and 3, I don't want to sort of jump the gun, literally, that's a bad pun, but they're almost like, especially 3, it's almost like a parody. It's almost like a bit over the top and a bit silly, and it's not even the killing is not ridiculously gory. It only gets really quite intense. Rambo 4 and sort of 5, which is my wife said I'm not going to watch those two. She's like, watch the first 3, but I'm not watching those last 2. It's brilliant, but I'm a huge Stallone fan, and obviously Rocky was my first love, and I thought, well, what else he's been involved in? I've watched pretty much his whole back catalogue, and something about Rambo as well really connected with me, especially the first film. I know you mentioned it before. It's actually legitimate good film. I think sometimes Rambo is a bit of a joke. Look at Hot Shots Part 2, which is not a bad film, actually. It's quite funny.
Right. But
it just takes the mick, doesn't it, out of the Rambo character. But actually, the first film is proper brilliant acting, and maybe his best. Maybe arguably Stallone's best acting. You could argue in a way, especially his physical acting.
There's an argument for his acting in First Blood, absolutely. If they could have an Oscar for almost like silent star, so to speak, or just body language acting category, you could almost argue his body language is amazing. His facial expressions, his intensity it's amazing in First Blood. All right, well, I watched First Blood too, like I've mentioned before already, of course, on the show, that I watched it at a very young age when it was new, like when it came out in 82. I probably saw it on VHS. Probably, VHS and everything took a little bit longer to watch, of course, back in the day. So I probably saw it when I was 8 or 9 in 83, 84. So I definitely saw it before I saw Part 2. Like, I saw the Rambo films in order. I remember when First Blood Part 2 came out, I was kind of confused by the title. But we'll get to those titles later. Okay. So we actually have some emails, which is incredible that people are actually emailing the show because it's, it's kind of a new show and people don't really email anymore. But we do have a couple emails. And one is a bit of a cheat because it's from Katie, because she is the co-host of the One More Round podcast, which I do about the Rocky series. So Katie, my co-host, emailed this show and she wanted to talk. Well, she titled it Dog Talk. Now, I don't know if our listeners know, but Katie is an incredible dog lover. She has a couple of dogs of her own. I think they're bloodhounds, and they're both named Rambo and Rocky. Or Balboa. Sorry, Balboa and Rambo. There you go. She goes here, Ryan, I loved your episode with Kyle. That's my other co-host of One More Round. She goes, I'm almost done with the First Blood book as well. So there you go. I do want to challenge people to read First Blood, the novel by David Morrell. It's a really great book. She goes on to say, I wanted to comment a tad on the dogs. Big shocker, eh? She says. I found it interesting, even before I read the book, that the dogs they bring in are Dobermans, not a breed typically known for tracking. Usually in a missing person or fugitive scenario, scent hounds, mostly bloodhounds, are used. Side note, she has 2 bloodhounds named Rambo and Balboa, in case anyone was unaware. There you go, I was right. Okay. And in the book, the dogs are in fact hounds. The book doesn't specify what type, just hounds. But in the movie, Dobermans are used. Teasel even says something like, since it's raining, we need the dogs to track on sight. Seemingly to explain why Dobermans would be used over a scent hound. But again, seems more likely that a sight hound would be used in that case. For example, greyhounds, Irish wolfhounds, etc. A likely explanation, she asks, possibly that they had access to some Dobermans trained for movies more readily and tried to find a way to make it make sense, thus Teasel's sight comment. Although rain would certainly not prevent a bloodhound from tracking on scent. The hardest part of this to watch, or any movie for that matter, is when dogs die. I'll watch human violence all day, but don't you dare touch an animal. I can't watch so-called feel-good or true story dog movies because sadness is guaranteed and my nerves can't take it. If I were Orville, that's of course the Doberman owner in the film, I would have bailed as soon as possible when the first dog dies. Okay, enough from the crazy dog broad. I'm loving going through the Rambo journey in the same style as the Rocky series. Thanks for the endless entertainment. Sincerely, your favorite female co-host, Katie.
Interesting.
Great email, Katie. And yeah, we're going to talk, I think today's episode, we are going to talk about the dog kills. I agree with, nobody likes, I mean, you shouldn't. I don't think anyone legitimately likes watching animals die or get hurt in films or in real life. I agree. It's almost, I'd rather watch a human limp with an injury than a dog limp. I think what it is we as humans can talk to another human and say, oh, your ankle's broken. Sucks to be you. Go to the hospital. But if a dog breaks his ankle, especially if it's a stray or something, there's no conversation you can have with this poor dog or a deer that gets hit by a car but doesn't quite die. You know what I mean? It's like, ugh, I feel bad for that animal. There's no way to kind of console this animal or tell it, hey, it's going to be okay. Usually an animal gets, injured. It's kind of like it's life or death for them. They can't function anymore.
Yeah, you don't see the dogs die on screen, I believe, do you, in Rambo or First Blood? It reminds me a bit Cliffhanger. Obviously, I think they filmed it. I think they were shooting the hare or the rabbit. There was no complaints about people being killed in that film, but the test audience says no, you can't just kill a rabbit on screen. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they had to be reshot, showing the hare or the rabbit pop his head back and he's fine by John Lithgow.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Oh, good callback to Stonefield. That's the rabbit did come back. It's funny because we see dead animals on film all the time, but we know they're prosthetics, makeup, stuffed animal, whatever it is. We know that these animals were not killed for the film. But early films did not have the same. Not to sidetrack too much, but Apocalypse Now, they killed a real cow on screen. I don't know if you remember that scene where they cut the neck off the cow on screen. It's a pretty brutal scene. But for film purposes, it was kind of weird. What else? I just watched Patton last year. And there's a few animal deaths on that one. It was really odd. They killed animals on screen. I think they shot like a vulture or something on screen. I was like, that was, this is 1969 or 70. Sorry, Patton came out. So I'm like, I don't think that was a prop animal. So they killed, it was like, oddly, they ran over a goat or something. It was weird. Anyways, thank you, Katie. And next email. This is from Peter. He's from Australia. He says, hi, Ryan. Peter, I want people to know when I read this. Peter was very kind in his comments to me, so I appreciate it, Peter, and I don't know why he was so kind, but he was very kind, but just when I read it, it sounds very kind. Go here. He goes, hi, Ryan. First of all, I'm very grateful and enthralled with your new It's a Long Road Rambo series. In the third episode, you're delving into deeper discussion about the production and coordination of stunts, which I've learned a lot from and I was unaware of. He especially loved hearing about Stallone's unique stunt efforts on the dirt bike and the accidental flipping of the police car. He goes on to say, I think it's a very bold and authentic of you, Ryan, to express contrarian opinions. Now, there you go. I've never... Contrarian, what does that mean to you?
Doesn't it just mean you're trying to almost say the opposite to Rob? Is that what it means?
Yeah,
like almost...
So. Do we have to Google this live on a recording?
Yeah, we're not... Opposite in nature, direction of meaning. They ignored contrary advice and agreed on the deal. Kind of the opposite.
Okay. Good. No, thank you. You're right. Good job. You pulled that out of the top of your head. Good job. Yeah. All right. So he goes, it's very bold and authentic of you, Ryan, to express contrarian opinions and support for Rambo Last Blood, the much maligned Rambo sequel. Honestly, through your unique analysis and perspectives, I've managed to appreciate this film, especially when you said, paraphrase, he says, just treat it as an entertaining Stallone film rather than lamenting how disappointing Stallone's portrayal of the Rambo character was. He goes on to say, I also agree with your assessment of the aesthetics of Rambo 5, Rambo's short hair. He was further shocked, but impressed with my integrity, he says, with your perspectives of Rambo 4 being too short and finishing in the second act, which there should have been a final third act. And this is where I love you, Peter, but I just feel, I don't know if I deserve this kind of praise. Sorry. It's almost like, are you being sarcastic? But I know he's not, but it sounds like... Anyways, he goes on to say, through your articulated and honest analysis, I now also agree with his perspective in hindsight. Now, this is, Peter, I will ask, maybe you can send me an email. He says that I gave a ranking of the Rambo sequels, and he gave me the ranking that he thinks I gave, and I don't know if it's quite right. Maybe I was just feeling Rambo 5 or something, because he goes, my ranking was Rambo 1, 5, 2, 3, then 4. So 5 seems a little high, and maybe I said that at the time, because I was probably trying to defend Rambo 5 a little bit. I can't remember when I gave that ranking.
I remember you saying Last Blood was not your least favourite Rambo film, but I don't remember you ranking them in order, but I might be wrong.
Or it might have been when I did the First Blood. I did a Last Blood review, I think, a quick one on the Going the Distance feed. It might have been then. But anyways, I definitely, First Blood is the first one. I don't want to kind of give away my ranking now, but I will say that 5 is not my least favorite, yes. He does have a soft spot for Rambo 3. So there you go. So thanks, Ryan, for the gargantuan efforts and passion. Regards, Peter from Australia. So thank you, Peter. Very kind email. Very kind. And okay, last one. This is just actually from our YouTube channel, so this was kind of cool. This is from Tim. He goes, hi, Ryan. Great episode. Discovered the Rocky series podcast 6 months ago, but decided to start listening from season 1 rather than jump to things mid-Creed. That's crazy. So, of course, Adrian, you were on you've listened to Going the Distance. It's 8 seasons long, right? And it's amazing still to this day how many people find the podcast, I guess, just organically. I don't know how people find podcasts, but he stumbled on the podcast and he went to... Boy, season 1 was rough. I'm surprised anyone keeps listening after my first few episodes of Rocky and Going the Distance feed. It was horrible. He goes, I'm almost caught up now and look forward to the future content. Although I'm more of a Rocky fan, I'm really enjoying the Rambo podcast. I've seen all the movies and I have the box set, but I've only seen each film about a handful of times. Maybe it's because it's less familiar is the reason I'm enjoying the podcast so much. That's an interesting perspective, yeah. Great review of the police chase scene, considering there's very little dialogue. He goes, look out for my Patreon subscription at the start of May. I feel bad for all the rent-free living I've been doing with the podcast over the last 6 months. So better late than never. I hope this comment is over, he says. I love that. Tim, that's very kind of you. Yeah, if you want to join our Patreon, here's the thing on our Patreon. The only thing I can guarantee you is that I try very hard to get edited podcasts out earlier, if that makes sense. So I'll edit a podcast. Usually it's a Sunday release, but I try to get the patrons like a Friday release. So they get a little bit of an earlier release. And there's not much else I can really do. I mean, if I get enough patrons, I might do like standalone reviews of films or something like that my patrons can request of like any genre or something like that, or who knows. It's hard to say but what Patreon is really, guys, I think, Tim, if you don't mind if I say what Tim described is kind of how I view it. It's just say thanks. That's it. A couple bucks, a cup of coffee. Hey, thanks, Ryan, for doing hundreds of hours of editing, and here's a couple bucks to say thank you. That's all it is. And so Patreon, I just don't want to make any illusions that I'm going to buy any equipment or anything. It's just a cup of coffee. It just helps out. It's a way. It's like busking.
Yeah.
I consider podcast busking. You're giving entertainment to anyone that wants to listen, but feel free to throw a couple things in my violin basket. All right, Adrian.
A little tip jar. Yeah, put a bit of money in. Let the lights, keep the lights on, basically.
Yeah, it's just a way of saying thank you. Emails are great, so if you want to send an email, I love emails, or anything on my social medias, absolutely. My email for this show is ramboseriespodcast@gmail.com, and the Patreon, all that Discord and all that stuff is in the show descriptions. And speaking of Discord, we got 2 people in the audience right now. Donald and Louise are faithful 2 guys, man. You guys are amazing. When you join our Discord, you don't have to wait for the edit, which I don't know if that's good or bad, because sometimes the edit is probably better than the live recordings. But yeah, here we go. And you get to interact with us live. That's the other advantage. So, all right, Adrian, are you ready to start watching?
Well, I watched the whole film last night. You said watch it up to this minute. I thought, okay, I'll just keep watching it. But for the first half an hour, I was spouting out all these facts to my wife. She was like, "This is very knowledgeable." Then it seemed to sort of tail off. So I'm a bit. So I kind of stole your facts, Ryan. So appreciate that.
Oh no, yeah, that's funny. Yeah, Kyle said in one of my on our Rocky episodes where I mentioned behind the scene, he kind of mentioned, "Oh, I hate hearing stuff like that because it kind of ruins." He said, but then he also has been interested with the fact. It all depends, I guess. I try not to be too like. This is a fan episode. I mean, a fan podcast. At the end of the day, Rambo is a fan podcast. It's a long road. We're just talking. We're geeking out about the movie, but every now and then I like to throw in something that I might have learned or gleaned from, and that's what we're doing here. Last episode, we had Teasel grabbing Mitch's hair and saying, "No, look at this guy. He's dead now because of that psycho out there." I love his delivery of that line. And Brian Dennehy. Yeah. What are your feelings of Brian Dennehy in this film? I want to hear your thoughts, Adrian.
Oh, he's brilliant. My wife, she was quite rude to him last night when I was watching it. He's got very square head, which was a little bit harsh. But I was like, well, look at his acting chops. He was brilliant. He's just brilliant. I think actually, I like Colonel Troutman, but it's a bit hammy, his performance. I can't remember the actor's name, top of my head. That's it. And he's a good character. I like him as a character, but I think Teasel, just for acting, he's on his A game, if I'm being completely honest.
Can you believe he's 44?
No, because I'm.
I love saying that at his age because, look, no offense to Brian. I mean, he lived to 80-something, so he did live a nice full life, but he was mid-age here. But he just looks... Look, if you told me he was 55 in this film, I'd be like, okay, he looks good for 55,
Yeah. He's great, and I know we're jumping forward a bit, but the bit when he's in the bar talking to Troutman is so good.
Yeah. Brian Dennehy is an absolute scene stealer in this film. He's amazing, and rewatching it again for this podcast, I just really appreciate his. It's always those things when an actor passes away from our mortal coil. Yeah. We look back at their films like, boy, he was here this whole time, and maybe I didn't appreciate him as much as we should have. And he was just so good in this film. Okay, so now we cut to a scene here of Rambo, and what I love is already he's greased up. He's got his arms dirty from mud or whatever to camouflage himself. He's got branches on his canvas thing. We see him creating hey, Dan, welcome to the Discord channel. Sorry, I just had to mute his mic. That's okay. So anyways, what I love here is Rambo has already sharpened about 10 sticks. So he is either time has jumped a little bit or he's just fast.
He's a master whistler. What do you say?
Well, Rambo's kind of like the MacGyver of Vietnam vets, because he's able to control. Well, we're going to see really quickly here what he is putting together. But what I love here is, we see him sharpening his stick. So the audience at this point doesn't quite know what he's doing. We get a feeling, okay, he's preparing for war. He knows he's being hunted by the police, and instead of kind of running away, he's now hunkering in, you could say.
Yeah.
Closing in. The sun's getting stronger.
All right, keep your eyes open.
Come on, Maggie.
It's gonna storm.
Come on, sweetheart.
That's all we need now. Will, come on, let's get out of here before it gets too dark.
What's the matter? You afraid of the boogeyman? You goddamn pansy.
Oh, you boy, put your gun down. I'll show you the pansy.
Great, now okay, come on. Come on, hey, knock it off. Ford, move out. The fight is out there. He's out there waiting for you. Mitch, get on your feet. Get on your feet and move.
Teasel here, what I like is I think he's channeling his Army days. Yeah. That kind of drill sergeant type talk. Get on your feet and move. The enemy is out there. The idea that these guys are hunting down Rambo. I think he's channeling we're hunting Koreans in a Korean War effort type thing. Or it seems that way to me, that he's more military here than police.
Yeah, 100%. He wants to keep his team focused, and they're a bit of infighting going on there. Mitch, obviously, he knows more, doesn't he? He fully appreciates Rambo in a funny way, doesn't he? He kind of understands him a bit more. But yeah, Teasel's like, no, just come on, get focused, stop fighting, stop being pansies. Which I don't know if you can say that term much anymore these days, truthfully.
No, it's a word that we don't use that word, and it obviously has a connotation. I think the connotation is understood. We wouldn't write that in films anymore, but definitely back then, I think we use it as a sign as a weak man. You're a weak man.
Yeah.
So what I also like is, Mitch tells the other officer, "Let's fight, but put your gun down," which was, let's have a tussle, but let's be safe here. I don't want that gun to accidentally go off if we scuffle. You also notice here, Adrian, that they're wearing white hats. This, I think, is to symbolize maybe that they're the good guys, so to speak. Because First Blood is kind of like a Western. David Morrell wrote it like a Western. So this is they're the good guys, so to speak. They're wearing the white hats. Because what they're wearing isn't very good for camouflage. And had they not been wearing these white hats, it would be actually really hard to see them on film.
I guess they don't want to accidentally, shoot the wrong person as well. This is the team members. And yeah, it helps to distinguish these two, I suppose, yeah.
Also want to note that, of course, this was filmed in British Columbia, my home province, and the cold that they're feeling and what they're seeing here is real. There's some snow on the ground, which indicates they're pretty high up in the mountains, because this wasn't filmed in the winter. I would say it's probably October, November looking weather. We don't get lightning storms very often at all in the winter. That's obviously just a movie effect. There would not be lightning with this kind of temperature. We'd only get lightning summertime, your typical summertime lightning. Also, the twisting ankle was scripted, but the actors did have trouble walking through the woods, and I don't know if you have this kind of terrain in the UK. In British Columbia, this forest is very, I've done a lot of camping, and this kind of forest terrain in British Columbia is rough. You can't just really run through the forest, and so they're really walking through the woods here, and it's very unsure footing, what have you. So the idea of a police officer or somebody rolling their ankle, and or actor, I believe a few did, it was real.
Go find this guy, for Christ's sake! Oh. Keep your eyes open! There, dude, let's go! I'll see you later, Ward. Shut up, bitch. Let's go, Bill. Come on. There he is. Turn those dogs loose, Orville! Go get him, sweethearts! There's your dinner!
The thunder flash illuminated some sort of figure in the forest, and they right away said, there he is, go get him, girls. So he lets 2 of his 3 dogs go, and he's like, go get your dinner. So what I think is kind of amazing is the idea, do they just want these dogs literally to tear Rambo apart? Let's pretend the dogs did their job and tore Rambo to pieces. Is Teasel okay with that? They come back with an arm and a leg and his head in their jaw.
Wow. He accuses Rambo of killing his best man at his wedding, is that right?
Gold. They're friends.
Yeah, so I think Teasel literally has got blood in his eyes. He doesn't really care if Rambo lives or dies, really. If they maim him to death or just injure him, I think he's not that bothered right now, but I might be wrong. But I don't assume that's how Teasel usually acts with criminals in his town, but this is the exception, I reckon.
In the book, Teasel was, it's in the movie as well, but Teasel was dead set on wanting to get Rambo for himself. Sorry, Louise just said in our chat, Teasel, if he dies, he dies. Yeah. Okay.
We know you're right. And actually later he does say, doesn't he, that he felt a bit bemused that he didn't get the opportunity to, when they thought Rambo was dead, to... You're right, he wanted the opportunity, so you could argue if the dogs did the dirty work, well, his chance is gone as well.
Teasel actually said set the dogs on him, so I think Teasel was probably hoping the dogs would just capture him. Now, I love this part. So the dogs, this is a great little sequence because the dogs are let loose and they hop over this little ridge where this quote-unquote figure was standing. We get a couple of gunshots and a couple of dogs yelping and then silence. And then, right after, Orville gets shot in the shoulder and he goes down. So it's kind of a cool little sequence where he sends the dogs get killed. And no offense to Katie, and this is what I said in one of our earlier episodes, was that at the end of the day, those animals are going to cause some real damage. And there's nothing else. You can't, that's the thing, we talked about animal injury. You can't just break their legs. It's like he just took them out. It's actually the most humane way to go for those poor dogs was to, it's not Rambo's fault. Like, he had 2 choices, either get maimed by them or just end their life. But what I love is he shoots Orville in the process. It's your fault for sending these dogs on me. I think that's great. I think it was intentional. They hit Orville.
Yeah, I'd agree completely, yeah.
Orville goes down. Now, what's interesting here is their response is real. Now their adrenaline's gone through. They've been shot at. Think about how frightening that would be in real life. You've been shot at. These guys are just old civilians, really. They're small town police force. They've never been in a gunfight before.
Well, they look petrified. Look at that face that we just stopped on here. It's good acting, really. It's like, this is proper serious now. Yeah, 100%.
And you can tell they've never been in a fight. Again, look, I'm small potatoes military. Like, I'm in the Navy, but I do some, like, I'm actually an instructor in basic training. I'm actually doing it again right now here locally. We do train the recruits in, like, small section attacks and what have you. So, very basic. Anyone listening to me who knows me, don't at me. I'm telling you, it's very basic. I understand that. But even here, I can see that what they're doing is, if you get shot at, get low. Good. So, actually, that's true. They went low, so that's good. And you do kind of lay fire down where the fire came from. Teasel, though, told him to cease fire, which is good, because once the firing has stopped coming your way, you want to, of course, conserve your ammo. So Teasel, again, taking that military control here with his troops, so to speak, by saying, hey, cease fire, cease fire.
I'm hit! God damn it, I'm hit! Jesus. He's got a gun.
This part's very interesting. So he mentions that, yeah, he's got a gun now. He has Galt's gun. Remember, he took that from Galt when he fell out of the helicopter. And I always love that part, because he basically loots Galt. Like in the video, speaking of video games, you take out an enemy, you take his equipment. So he took Galt's jacket and gun to upgrade his character. But you'll notice he never wears Galt's jacket. Did you notice that?
Yeah, interesting, really.
Yeah. And also, Rambo never uses the gun again, I don't think, during the sequence.
No, I think we'll see in a minute, but yeah, I think it's more just now let the sticks do the fighting, really. Yeah, I think you're right, Ryan.
I think the next time, you saw this more recent than me, I think the next time he uses a gun is in the town, when he grabs it from the back, like when he goes to the ammo store and all that stuff. I don't think he uses a gun fighting. Yeah. So now a big lightning flash occurs, and we see what he's done here. He's put up some sort of... Now, is that like a black tarp of some sort? It's hard to make out what that is, but it looks like a mirror drill from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. I was thinking Blair Witch Project, but you're right. It looks quite evil, doesn't it? It's kind of like a witchy kind of tent. Maybe it's an old tent or something that he's just hooked up on a tree, but it looks very interesting. Lord of the
Rings, where they call I'm again two different signs.
Ring wraiths, I think they're called.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it looks like a ring wraith from Lord of the Rings. There.
It does, doesn't it?
So it goes, it's not him, it's a scarecrow. They call it a scarecrow, but that's a really terrible... It does look like a ring wraith.
It's not him?
Yeah.
It's a goddamn scarecrow! There's no scarecrow that shot Orville. He's close. He's real close. Kill him. Kill him. Go get him.
So, of course, Teasel knows, obviously, that thing didn't shoot us. He's around somewhere. And now Orville has sent his last dog.
I think that's, again, I can see why he's being shot. He wants revenge. He's got his weapon with him, and he's going to unleash the weapon. But surely, 2 dogs down. Rambo's not stupid. He knows there's 3 dogs out. They can still hear the dog barking. I think that was a bit of a stupid and maybe irresponsible move by Orville personally, but I can understand why he did it also.
Yeah, he sent us a good point. He should have taken the last dog with him and called it a day.
Go get him,
Maggie. Now that part's the most brutal part, because he killed the one dog with his bare hands.
Yeah, there was no gunshot, was there? Yeah.
There was a thumping sound. The caption said thumping.
Yeah.
And
look at his face.
The dog doesn't die right away because it whimpered before it died, so it felt a little bit...
We shouldn't... I look at Orville's face. I don't know much about his backstory, but that might... Has he got a wife? I don't know. He seems like quite a lonely man, really. He's probably just... He loves those dogs, and I don't know.
Well, it's actually interesting you brought that up. So in the movie, he seems really gung-ho about, let's get this guy. Maybe excited that he gets to use his dogs for a real, manhunt, so he's excited. He's waited his whole life for this moment to use his dogs for a proper manhunt instead of, hunting, hunting deer or rabbits or whatever. Yeah. In the book, though, he is a father figure, literal, to Teasel, that he raised Teasel after Teasel's father had left or passed away. I can't even remember now. So it was like a surrogate stepfather to Teasel. since his childhood. He was a dog breeder and all those things, but he was also very reluctant to do this. He thought the whole thing was, we shouldn't be doing this. He was more reluctant about this, and he got killed in the book as well. Everybody dies in the book. Spoiler alert.
It's a great book. I haven't read it for a while. It's a great book. It's well worth reading. If you're a fan of this film, obviously, I fully recommend it. Yeah.
So yeah, the portrayal of Orville in this film is not well done compared to the character. And I know you have more fleshing out in the book, but I will say Teasel's performance in the film is leaps above David. Not that David Morrell didn't write a great character, but I'm saying in many ways, Dennehy just makes it better, I guess you could say. And same with Richard Crenna's Troutman. Troutman was actually a smaller character in the book compared to this as well.
Yeah. Trusted.
Mitch! Mitch Ward, come here. Oh, Singleton, you cover us.
Look at his leg.
Mitch, get your belt. Get a tourniquet around that.
We gotta get this guy to a doctor.
Oh, damn it, get your belt around there fast. Where's the first aid kit?
I left it in the car.
Shit.
Where'd you get the gun?
It's gonna be our Galt's gun. He's out of ammo.
How do you know that?
Because whatever killed that last dog was no bullet, that's how. Hurry up.
Great seeing Teasel here, really in action. He's really channeling his military leadership. He's directing first aid. He's telling somebody else to cover, giving this direction. And he says he's out of ammo because whatever killed that last dog was not a bullet. Now, he's right about that part, but I find it kind of odd that he would automatically assume he's out of ammo. Maybe he's conserving his ammo. That he felt, Rambo just felt like I could kill this dog with my bare hands. Because the other two was two dogs at once, so he needed something quicker. Whereas he could take one dog out by himself.
Yeah, he's smart, and with this action going on, he's the only one person who's quite level-headed, and he's trying to explain the situation. Maybe he's saying that to boost the morale of his team again. Say he's out there, we can get him now, sort of thing. Don't get him too scared, possibly. But yeah.
Orville, listen to me. Now listen. You gotta stay awake, all right? You gotta release that tourniquet every 15 minutes. We'll be right back. You gotta get him now. He's out of ammo. All right, let's go. Hurry up. Move.
You no right to shoot my babies. Get the son of a bitch.
Go.
Go get him.
All right. Now, this next sequence we're going to watch, it is straight up out of a horror film. If you were to show just this part forward almost, even the Orville's damage there with the dogs and everything else, every scene that we're watching for this episode, and you're just to tell someone, hey, this is a psychomaniac killing cops. Like, if you didn't know any of the backstory, let's just say, like, you show someone this sequence saying, hey, I'm making a movie about a crazy man out in the woods who is killing the local residents, and the cops have come out to get him, and now now they're being taken up by this crazy guy. You would think, like, that's the context of this next sequence. Now, we know that's not what's happened. Well, Rambo's just gone back to Vietnam. He's surviving now. And he's fighting back, yes, but it's filmed in a horror fashion.
If you just literally started watching it from this second, you might be against Rambo, but you're right. The first half an hour of the film, you kind of, you're sort of rooting for Rambo in a funny way. I was, at least. But I do agree. If you show someone from this second onwards, you'd be like, oh, get this guy, who is this killer? Yeah.
You wouldn't know there's no way. Nobody would ever watch this sequence that we're doing for this episode not knowing anything about the Rambo series, and even let's say didn't even know who Stallone was, just whatever kind of scenario where they're just watching a film clip, you would think this guy's a maniac, and these poor cops are getting destroyed for no reason.
Yep.
All right, now listen up. We're right on top of them. We're going to form a skirmish line, 50 feet apart, and keep moving. There's no way out of here except through us.
Again, with that leadership, telling them how to form a line, giving them the direction that they need to hear, talking to them in a calm way to keep their focus.
Okay. Let's do some hunting.
Hunting? We ain't hunting him. He's hunting us.
That's a classic line there.
Yeah, it's great. It reminds me of Predator, this scene personally. This next 5-10 minutes is literally, I think Predator got some, it was obviously filmed after, it wasn't a Predator, but it's basically who's being hunted. Yeah, I really do see a lot of vibes from that film in this section, personally.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Predator came out 5 years after this film. I mean, look at this scene here of them walking through the woods. That's all real fog, real mist. This is no CGI, no fog machine. This is just real nature out in these woods.
Spread out, damn it. I said 50 feet.
And that's very true. I don't know if you've ever done a search line with people. Hopefully you haven't for a real missing person or whatever, but I've done these exercises in the military where whether we're searching for a lost piece of equipment or just doing an exercise. Humans just have the tendency to bunch up. It's a weird concept. And so we see it here where Teasel's telling them, hey, I told you 50 feet spread out, but they're scared. You don't want to be too alone, and so they're bunching up.
That's about 15 feet, maybe? I don't know. It's
10, maybe 5 feet or something.
Yeah.
But I love how they showed that. Teasel's like, come on, guys, I told you 50 feet, but it's natural to bunch up, though. Kicks in. It just sounds like a horror film.
Yeah, the storm's coming.
That sound right there, that's a horror film sound. It's great composition by Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah, it's not even music really, is it? It's like
a screeching cigar. The ring race is screeching.
yeah.
Can you imagine? Okay, so this is Mitch that you hear screaming. So I love the sequence because it's a great shot. It goes above and it goes up in the air, the shot, and you see David Caruso, who plays Mitch, coming around this corner, looking around. And I'm like, where is Sly again hiding? I always kind of forget where he's hiding, and it's great because he's in the shot. He's in the shot, hiding in the woods. It's awesomely shot and lit where. Oh yeah, he's there. He's in the bottom left corner, and he just hops up and stabs. He stabs Mitch. Rambo stabs Mitch right in the back of the leg and the thigh there.
I didn't see him in the scene, and I kind of thought, I watched it yesterday, I still couldn't see him. He's pretty well hidden.
Now, this is where we know he could have killed Mitch.
Yeah.
He could have stabbed him in the neck easily, wherever, the heart. But he just stabs in the leg. Now, that scream, think about that for a second, how quiet they are. And all of a sudden, you're hunting this guy, and all you do is hear this scream. And the screams will keep coming in this sequence where, can you imagine the terror you're now feeling as, am I next? Like, this guy is taking out people. Yeah. Now, right now, it's just one scream. And now they're like, oh boy, where's he? They're hearing this.
Oh, God! Will, it's Mitch! Oh, shit! Oh, God! Will! Who is it? Will! Will! Mitch!
Again, another great scene. I always forget. Oh yeah, he's on top of the dead tree there.
It's so good. It's just so well directed, this film, isn't it? It shouldn't. I don't know. Yeah, every bit is so well done.
I'm going to go back to this. Watch that again. So now I always forget. Oh, yeah, he's on top of that dead tree. So now we got the camera kind of looking down up at the police officer. And they go, where does Rambo come out? It doesn't matter how many times you see this film. I forget where Rambo is half the time. He's so good at hiding, I forget where he is in every scene. There he is. Oh, I love that. What a great shot there. And of course, that's Sly, and this is a good. That's a good little stunt. That's probably at least 8-10 feet.
Yep.
So Sly jumps from this dead tree stump or something, and lands on the actor. Great stunt work by both actors, quite frankly. Yeah. So now let's see what Rambo does to this poor cop on the ground.
What the hell's going on?
I think he just breaks his arm.
Yeah, he snapped it. I think, didn't he? Just sort of punched it. Yeah.
That's crazy. So he just breaks the guy's arm. Think about it, if your arm is broken, you're not picking up. You're not picking up a weapon. You can't fight.
He's got bored. I spread out. I'll go this way.
So now they're still calling out for Mitch. They can't find where Mitch went. Now they know Ward is down with a broken arm. They're spreading out. They're panicking.
Will! Will! Over here! Will! It's over here! Who's firing? Hold on, it's firing! I got him! Singleton, follow me! I got him!
Okay, let's go back a bit. Whoa, before we go.
Yeah.
Okay. This sequence here, is that the guy's arm that he broke? I
think it is, but he seems to lean against the tree a minute later, doesn't he? I don't quite.
Because I think it is the same guy. Because this might be an editing flub. Because if it's the guy,
he's on the floor now, isn't he? Yeah.
Because he's on the ground right now, and Rambo runs away. But then the next sequence, he's tied to a tree. The same guy that's on the ground.
It has to be. It's not Mitch tied to a tree,
No,
is it? So it has to be him.
It's not Mitch. I think it's the guy's arm that he broke. Now, so what's happened here, folks, sorry, is that I think it's a bit of a editing flub. We know a lot was cut out of this film. So I think that's what's happening here. This is a sequence where, first time viewing, you're not going to quite catch what's going on. So I think what they meant to say or meant to show, well, Sly said that this 4 sequence was 45 minutes long originally.
Wow.
Yeah, they've chopped it up quite a bit, and I think this might be a situation where the editing doesn't quite make sense if you're analyzing it the way we are. So he breaks the guy's arm, but we see Rambo run away. So the guy's arm is broken. He's calling out, help me over here. But the next sequence is Rambo has tied the same guy to a tree. And this is a very risky, now it's a great visual effect. It's a great, sequence in the film. But Rambo's standing there in plain sight for the guy to shoot him. But he dodges it out of the way just in time that the guy shoots the police officer who has his arm broken tied to the tree. Is that what I'm getting here?
I'm not sure if it's was that a plan by Rambo or just they caught him out kind of thing almost, and he had to sort of just improvise. I don't know if it was it was a clever strategy in a funny way, but it's far too risky, really,
good point.
for Rambo.
Good point. Maybe he was just finished tying him to the tree?
Yeah, maybe.
Let us know in our maybe let us know in the comments below. Is it Rambo tying to the tree, getting caught at the last moment, or did he tie him to the tree just so the guy could shoot him while he's tied to the tree?
He's lucky his head didn't get blown off as well. Truthfully,
well, that's we know Rambo doesn't kill anyone in this film other than Galt, and that was self-defense / he didn't intend to kill Galt. He just hit the helicopter to get out of here, and Galt fell out of the helicopter. That was the only casualty in the film. I might lean towards your thought there, Adrian, that he was maybe just tying this guy to the tree, kind of got caught, maybe just right after the tie job was done, and happened to dodge out of the shooting. Because the cop brings up his weapon to shoot Rambo. Rambo dodges the bullet. Oh, yeah. But the bullet from the officer's weapon hits his fellow officer tied to the tree, which is, again, a great little visual effect, but very risky on Rambo's part.
Will! It's over here!
He hops out of the tree line into the line of sight of the officer and then jumps out of the way. It looks intentional.
Interesting. It does, doesn't it? It's mad.
Hold on, it's firing! I got him!
So that's great. So Will's like, hold your fire. Who the hell is firing? And the guy's like, I got him. It's a nice little sequence where, of course, I've never been in war, never been in battle, or even been in a police shootout, where it's almost like he's convincing himself, like, I got him. No, dude, it's your buddy who's yelling.
You shot your mate.
Yeah. Rambo did jump into the sight of the officer. It seemed intentional. It's like, hey, I'm here, I'm gone, and then boom.
I got him! Singleton, follow me! I got him!
So the same officer that shot his fellow officer, this is probably the most brutal scene in the whole film.
Yep.
We all know what we're talking about. So the officer that shot his buddy on the tree gets those spikes that we saw earlier at the start of this episode, those stick spikes, goes through his thighs and front of his legs and impales him where he can't. Oh my goodness. What are your thoughts on this scene?
My wife is like, we're going to see in a second, he takes them out. You should just leave it, I think. That's medical advice. But there's probably about maybe 2 or 3 spikes in each leg. Quite deep, I don't know if it went all the way through, but blimey, that could bleed out. That could kill you, I think. If you removed it and it won't get medical attention straight away. I don't think it would kill you straight away, but blimey, absolutely. Oh, again, Predator vibes again, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, those are deep. We saw how long the sticks were, and that goes right into his leg. Now, I'm not too sure how Rambo got the spring action going. what he used for a spring, but whatever. We'll just forget that little point. But anyways, he used the spring trap. Somehow he got a spring trap rigged up.
Probably from the truck or something. Yeah, who knows?
This guy's yell is just, Now, just so you know, too, when this wood actually hit the actor, it caused a bruising and hemorrhage in his legs, so he had to actually get it treated in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Help me! Help me, Will! Alfred! Alfred!
That's what I mean by horror film. That's the most horrific, like, this is like horror film type violence. This is probably the most intense part of the movie, where if I was showing my 10-year-old son this film, that's an intense part, because that's torture.
Why are they all shouting for Will as well? Do you reckon he's a medical person? Why isn't it Teasel? It's interesting, isn't it? He's always shouting for Will, isn't he?
Well, it's Will Teasel.
Yeah.
Will.
Oh, is it? Oh, my bad. There you go. There you go. It's my bad.
Yeah, sorry. Everyone just refers. Yeah, no. Will. It's Will Teasel. So they're either shouting for Will and or Teasel, but they would call Will. Yeah. That's his first name. Yeah. So that's a great little cut there. So Will and the other officer, Singleton, is with them. They're running to go see Belford, who's impaled in his legs, and the guy who's behind Will just gets tackled by Rambo. Just down, boom, taken out.
Kill me! Alfred! Singleton over here!
I want to read these comments here from Donald and Louise. So Donald says, regarding did Rambo intend to show himself? So Donald says, I never noticed the tree tying right away editing before. Great catch, Ryan. Thank you, Donald. And then Louise said, that was a deliberate move. This is what he thinks. He goes, that was a deliberate move, showing how Rambo's playing chess while they're playing checkers.
One step ahead, maybe. Yeah.
I love that.
Possibly.
What a great analogy. Man, maybe these guys should do a podcast.
Easy, get me out here.
Now you're right. Will should know better. Leave, like at the very least, maybe cut the branch off so you can mobilize him and move him out. But never, if you're ever first aid from Ryan, never take out the impaled object that's in you. Don't take it out because it's actually stopping the bleeding. It's in you and it sucks, but it's actually a plug for the bleeding. You pull that out.
That's what my wife said over and over again. Say, don't take it out. Yeah,
it's for effect because they're going to pull it out and he's going to.
If it happened to me, I think I would try and put it out, but just because you don't want it in you. But yeah, I understand.
Yeah, it's a foreign object. Yeah, it's a foreign object. You want to pull it out. Okay.
Singleton, where the hell are you?
Now, Singleton, where the hell are you? That was the guy that was behind him when they went to go get Belford. So he's like, so he doesn't know that Singleton was tackled by Rambo.
He's the quietest one there, isn't he, Singleton?
Singleton! Singleton!
Now, this is another interesting, brutal one. So Rambo's now tied up two people. Singleton just got tied up. It's gory?
It's horror movie-esque. It is.
The Saw movies, like, how do you get out of this trap? It looks like a Saw trap. He's got Singleton wrapped around a tree with his neck. Just if he moves his neck anymore, it's going to bleed him out. Like, it's cutting his neck. He can't move his neck.
That's why he's so quiet as well. I was taking the mick earlier, but that's a bit harsh, isn't it, really?
Now, great little sequence here. Okay, so we all know, anyone that's, of course, listening to this podcast knows what's happening right now. So Rambo's now taken out. Every police officer has been taken out. And intentionally so, he has kept Will for last. He's kept Teasel for last. He jumps out and puts a knife right to Teasel's throat. And Teasel, for all of his pomp and circumstances, toughness and everything, he's wetting himself literally in this situation. Let's listen to the exchange that Rambo now says to Will. So Will's against a tree, horror in his face, knife to his throat.
I could have killed them all. I could have killed you. I'm telling you the law. Out here it's me. Don't push it. Don't push it, I'll give you a war you won't believe. Let it go. Let it go.
So great acting, number one, on both actors' parts. So every line that Rambo says there is a classic line from, in the town, you're the law, fair enough. Out here, it's me. This is my terrain. I'm the law out here. I could have killed you all. Another great line, but I didn't. I could have killed each one of you, and you know it. And I could kill you right now, and I'm not going to. What I like is, am I really a crazy killer or anything? Like, I'm not. I didn't kill Galt intentionally. I'm not killing you. You're hunting me. Stop the hunt. Let it go. If you want to keep pushing this, I will then... You want me to ramp it up? I'll ramp it up. And, well, of course, we know that they didn't let it go, and he destroys the town. So, I'll give you a word that you can't believe. You can't say that Rambo didn't warn Teasel.
He doesn't speak a lot in this film, does he? Or, he has a little pockets of dialogue, and when he does speak, it's just brilliant. That's why I think less is more sometimes. That's why this film's so good. It's all action, but in between... some great lines, and I agree, Ryan. Some brilliant things there, 100%.
Well, it's a good point that you brought that up. That yes, the Rambo character doesn't speak very much in this film, and not very much in a lot of the films. But regarding this one, he doesn't speak very much at all, and that adds to the intensity of his character. And one of the more discombobulating parts of the novel was how much John Rambo speaks in the book. You get a lot of inner dialogue, so you get a lot of his thoughts, so you get a lot of, which is interesting, but you get a lot of Rambo dialogue. So he talks much more in the book, which for the book it works, but when you know the movie so well and you go to the book, you realize, we're getting a lot of Rambo thoughts and a lot of Rambo speak, whereas compared to so both mediums work, but it's a little jarring at first when you read the book about how much you hear Rambo's thoughts and voice. Yeah, incredible scene, classic scene. Teasel in that moment cries at the end. The adrenaline is worn off. His men are down. This is intense. You think about what's really happened here. Just how intense this situation has been for the last, couple hours, hour and a half. Between Galt dying, you're in the woods, dogs are dying, people are being impaled, bones broken, tied to trees, shots fired, and now you have a knife to your throat by the guy that's done it all.
Mad. And he was a broken man, and obviously no one's looking at him, and he kind of just let himself. The whole situation's just washed over him, didn't it? And yeah, I mean, he dusts himself down eventually, but blimey, yeah, he's literally sobbing, isn't he? It's excellent acting. It's
incredible, absolutely incredible. But I don't want to spoil the next episode. Does Teasel let it go? It's amazing how much he kind of doubles down, but we'll talk about that on our next episode. And at the time of this recording, I don't know who the guest host is yet. I got a couple of people on my queue to invite. I just have to send out the invite, but there you go. That is this sequence of events. Overall, Adrian, how did you feel this went for you on your first time on the It's a Long Road podcast?
I loved it. I'm happy to be involved in any future episodes if you need me. And I just think what I most like about the first Rambo film, especially, is there's no CGI, and it's just proper raw acting, and I think everyone is on their A game throughout as well. There's the interesting characters, and man, I just love it. I think it's just brilliant, and I've really had a good time. And that little pocket you watch there, that could easily just be a horror film, like I said. Interestingly, that's why there's different sort of genres combined in the first film. I think it's a drama, isn't it, as well? Really, then. Don't know, just so interesting, sort of picking it apart like that.
I think that sequence that we just analyzed and went over in this episode, that's what makes this movie, I think that's the most intense part. I think it's that sequence alone that gives this film maybe the hard R. There's nothing else really in this film, there's two sequences. There's the 4 sequence in the MacGyver maiming of the police officer. It's all horror. It's absolutely brutal. There's nothing like, you watch some action films, even some of the later Rambo films, when, let's say when, spoiler alert, when that Viet Cong officer gets blown up with the arrow. Like, it's a great sequence. It's like, yay! That Vietnam officer gets blown up with the explosive arrow. It's a fun, body parts go everywhere. Even that doesn't seem brutal in a weird way. It's hard to explain, even though you got a body blowing up, but you're like, yay! You're cheering, for Rambo, and it's fun. It's fun action because it's just a great action sequence. But this action sequence, there's nothing fun about this. You understand Rambo's motives. You know why he's doing it. He is just trapped in his PTSD. He's in war right now. He's in survival mode, but you're never watching this. Yeah, you go get him, cops. Yay, the cop is impaled. Yay, his arm is broken. Like, it's a combination. You feel for these officers because they're trapped too. They don't even know what they're getting themselves into. Teasel is on his own warpath. It's not the other officer's fault. So Teasel actually ironically got off light here. This whole mess is
probably everyone else seemed to get worse than him, actually. He got
way worse.
A little scar on the neck. Yeah, a little scar on the neck, possibly. Although his ego's been burst big time.
Yeah. A great sequence, but I would say this sequence is the most intense part of the film. And I think it's what I remember as a kid seeing it. I was like, oh, what am I watching? It's the one part where the human part of you, or you empathize with the pain these officers are going through. There's nothing... It's not a thrilling part of the film, if that makes sense. The cliff jump is kind of fun and thrilling. The motorcycle chase sequence is fun and thrilling for action. But this quote-unquote action sequence is a horror film action. I don't know how else to describe it.
Stunning. And just the direction as well, in that particular... The way Stallone was hidden in different bits, and you hardly knew where he was there, and things were out of focus on purpose, and he jumped down, for example... I honestly, when you watch a film like this, it makes you realise that they don't make films like this anymore. You know, the latest they remade the first Rambo. It'd be CGI, stupid, ridiculous stunts.
Right.
They wouldn't take advantage of the nature they do. I just think this is you can't beat a film like this back in the 80s. Really, it's got a charm to it.
It holds up, and it holds up for a reason. Again, it was filmed like a Western, or it was written like a Western from David Morrell, and like Westerns. Without CGI Westerns, that's why they hold up for so long, because there's no dependence on special effects or anything. It's just filming, and this whole movie ages well because there's no CGI. Nothing ages. It's just beautiful scenery. Everything's natural. You can watch it for, well, I would assume decades to come. It's going to be a piece of film history that will never age. All right, Adrian. Well, that's it. That's the end of the episode.
Nothing is over. Nothing. You just don't turn it off.